Hey good people, happy Wednesday and welcome back to the channel. Over the course of this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings on episode 8 of Married at First Sight San Diego. And for this review, I'll be providing an episode breakdown, followed by my thoughts on what happened with each couple this episode. I'll also be giving an overall rating for the episode, and lastly, I'll be revealing the results of my first ever Married at First Sight bingo. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Episode 8 marks the halfway point of the season of the show. Unfortunately, this episode as a whole was a snoozer. Throughout the 2-hour runtime, the couples are essentially talking to their friends and each other about their marital issues. They prepare to throw a friends and family costume / housewarming party. They actually throw the party, and towards the end of the episode, the men meet with the men and the women meet with the women to discuss their same marital problems that they talked about throughout the episode. That's essentially everything that happened, which would make this episode one loaded with filler. Now, if you haven't seen the episode yet, if I had to recommend whether you should check it out or avoid it, then you should definitely treat it like a bill collector and avoid it at all costs. I wasted my time watching this trash, so you didn't have to. But if you lend me a few minutes of your time, I'll tell you about my thoughts for each couple. Let's first talk about Lindy and Miguel. Miguel meets with one of his friends to discuss his experience being married to Lindy, and he really doesn't have anything bad to say about their marriage. Later on in the episode, Lindy and Miguel host a housewarming party where everyone in attendance has to dress up like they're on a game show. They play a few games at this party, but Lindy has an interesting discussion with some of Miguel's friends. Lindy reveals that Miguel essentially gave her an ultimatum. If she wants to be on Miguel's insurance, then she needs to take his last name. And Lindy believes that this is a red flag because Miguel's actions hint that he doesn't want to take care of his wife. And here's my take on all this foolishness. Lindy said that she didn't want to take Miguel's last name because she wasn't sure the marriage will last. That is a fair and valid point. But my thing is, why can't Lindy just get her own insurance and pay that until she's ready to take Miguel's last name? Or until she can get a job that offers her good insurance? Because whether you like or hate Miguel, if he doesn't want Lindy to be on his insurance, then he isn't legally obligated to put her on his insurance. Lindy has her criteria for what is needed for her to take his last name, and Miguel has his criteria for what it's needed for her to be on his insurance. And at the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Even after the party, Miguel flat out asks Lindy what she needs from him to take his last name. Then Lindy talks about his insurance and having a joint account in order for her to feel safe. In my opinion, Lindy just needs to shut up right now. It seems like she's trying to muscle Miguel into financial security before she gives him what he wants. She's being a little manipulative, when in reality, if she changes her last name and things don't work out, she could easily change it right back. But it is what it is. In my opinion, this is a huge stupid argument, and it seems like Lindy wants to spend some of Miguel's money while she takes her time paying off her student loans. Next up, there's Krysten and Mitch. There really isn't much to say about this couple. They have their differences, and Krysten is seemingly okay with Mitch being messy. But there is one point in the episode where Krysten tells Mitch her deep dark secret, which is that she found out her fiance cheated on her a few weeks before the wedding, and instead of canceling the wedding reception, she invited all their guests to come. Mitch made a dumb comment about it, which made me happy because I earned a point in bingo, but he quickly corrects himself and he offers his sympathy. I was thinking that Krysten's deep dark secret was something more scandalous, but I guess that Krysten felt that a burden was lifted off her shoulders by telling Mitch that. Krysten and Mitch then host a wacky sci-fi housewarming party, but nothing of importance really happens at the party. Next up is Alexis and Justin, and as many of you already know, there's trouble in paradise for these two. Early on in the episode, Alexis admits two things, one of which was a no-brainer. The first disclosure was that while Alexis might love Justin, she is definitely not in love with him. And why do I get the feeling that Alexis didn't pass that memo on to Justin? And the second disclosure is that she feels that Justin is vague in his information, therefore he can't be trusted. Now, after Alexis discloses these things, she also admits that she has a history of taking herself out of a good situation, and she has a fear of commitment. So one has to wonder, is she doing this to Justin? I would venture to say yes. In my opinion, Alexis loved the great things about Justin, while loathing the things that she didn't like about him. If Alexis's dream guy had all the good qualities that Justin has, then Alexis would be in heaven. But just like Morgan, it seems like she's looking for a way out of the marriage, and how she repeatedly paints Justin as being intentionally deceitful and manipulative gets old after a while. Alexis and Justin had their 90s themed housewarming party, and the decorations looked nice. However, none of the guests got the memo to dress up. But Alexis blasted Justin in front of everyone about her issues with him, which I think was poor handling on Alexis's part. On the flip side, Justin does have some issues, with one being that he's simply not the brightest bulb on the tree. Justin doesn't think quick on his feet, and he doesn't have the ability to take care of situations the way that he should. But it seems like Alexis is trying to piss Justin off to the point where he's the one that initiates the breakup, which is silly because throughout the entire season, Alexis has done things ranging from very subtle to very blatantly disrespectful to Justin, and this has been in front of crowds. And in my opinion, this is being done to get Justin to ask for the divorce, because she can't bring herself to do so. I think the last thing worth mentioning was that towards the end of the episode, Justin lets all the guys know that he's tried to get intimate with Alexis, but she denied him. And in my opinion, the combination of Justin's emotional state, the incident with Newton, and Alexis and Justin naked have created a perfect storm for Justin to be permanently excluded from a trip to Pound Town. And I don't think Justin has a chance of consummating the marriage. Next, we have Morgan and Binh. And truth be told, there's simply no hope for this couple. If for some reason you haven't seen the episode yet, I can give you 100 guesses as to which one issue Morgan and Binh continue to talk about, but you only need one. That's right, Morgan is still hung up on the snafu that she had with Binh during their honeymoon. Now here's the million-dollar question. Has anything negative happened to their marriage since then? The answer is absolutely not. But Morgan's still talking about this mess, and this is after she sat down in front of Pastor Cal last week and vowed to forgive Binh. But she's still clearly bothered by it, and it continues to show. On a side note, Binh picked a bottle of great value tequila at the liquor store, which earned me a point on my bingo card. But moving along, Morgan and Binh have their housewarming party centered around tacos, and it doesn't take long for the party guests to see how awkward things are between Morgan and Binh. Morgan and Binh then share their version of events that happened during the honeymoon with each other's friends, and the consensus was that Morgan just needs to move the hell on already. In my opinion, Morgan is in self-sabotage mode, and she's looking for any reason to get out of the marriage with Binh. This is kind of similar to Alyssa and Chris from last season. Morgan realizes that outside of the physical attraction, she has absolutely nothing else in common with Binh, and he does absolutely nothing to make her want him. So she continues to throw this honeymoon incident in his face so that he can get to a point where he no longer wants to be married to her. And lastly, there's Nate and Stacia. They throw a 70 themes housewarming party, and I appreciate hearing Nate's perspective on issues that he had with Stacia. Nate brings up very valid points by sharing that although Stacia is in a hurry to have kids, he has never seen Stacia dealing with kids. Stacia is a workaholic, and Stacia is a neat freak, which will clash with a child's nature to cause a mess. These are all very valid points, and I like that Nate is bringing a logical perspective to such a serious situation. Stacia also meets with Nate's friends to talk about having kids and about her belief that Nate doesn't share his feelings. I think that Nate's friends did a great job at explaining why Nate may not share as much as Stacia wants him to. And when Nate was talking to Stacia's sister, he even opened himself up to the idea of going to therapy to help him learn about how to be vulnerable. What I noticed thus far about this couple is that Nate is constantly trying to measure up to Stacia's standards, but she doesn't seem to be willing to measure up to his standards. Even at the male group discussion, Nate lets the group know that he has performed oral on Stacia, but she still isn't willing to have intercourse with him, which just speaks to the point that she expects him to follow her beat. The spoilers have a happy ending for these two, but I still don't see how they get to that point. But overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give this episode a solid 2. It was a huge waste of time, and the events of the episode could have been condensed into 1 hour, and it wouldn't have affected the storyline. But for my episode bingo, I almost had it, but I might have better luck next time. And that marks the end of the review. If you have any questions or comments related to my review or the episode, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to reply to each and everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.